Today, everybody, we are talking to Lucy. Lucy has been my friend for quite a long time, and she is also a vegetarian. So I wanted to talk to her today about some of the reasons that she became a vegetarian, and also what she can help to share with others about how to live a little bit more green and plant-based. So Lucy, my first question is, why did you become a vegetarian?
Well, it's quite simple. I one day was at the dinner table with my family,
Mm-hmm.
and I was looking at this roast chicken we had, and I
Mm-hmm.
just saw a live chicken there, just like what happened with Lisa Simpson with the lamb. It was exactly the same for me. I just saw this chicken. I was like, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. I love animals, and yeah, I just couldn't continue to. I got to that age, I think I was like 22. I was
Mhm.
really making the connection of
Right.
the where food comes from. And
Yes.
it's, yeah, so that's why.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of people who would, share um, that type of experience
Mm,
um, in the lead up to becoming a vegetarian. But obviously, like, people become vegetarians for various reasons, and I think some of the main ones, so obviously animal welfare, like you were talking about as well, and also, for example, global warming, even, and the contribution that eating meat makes to CO2 and other greenhouse gas emissions, and
mm,
then also in general ecosystem degradation. So, in the process of making the meat, we need to use a lot of land and water, and also we deplete the soil of nutrients in the process, etc. So, I was wondering if there was any other reasons, apart from the fact that you care about animals, that you continued to be a vegetarian.
yeah, definitely environmental as well.
Mm,
I think when you start looking into how much land, how much water, how much just, you know, energy and time goes into kind of bringing up animals just to kill them,
mm,
especially cattle,
yeah.
it's insane how much water they use. Compared to a big company, I don't make that much of a dent,
Mm,
but I think it's important to stand up for what you believe in.
mm,
And when you kind of look into how much waste goes into,
mm,
livestock,
mm,
it feels better knowing that you're personally not involving yourself with that as much
mm.
as possible.
Yeah, definitely. And even I was a few months ago going down south of Sydney for a bit and towards Canberra. And there were a lot of green fields on either side of the road. And I think the first thing that would come to mind for a lot of people would be, oh, look at these beautiful green fields dotted with sheep and cows. But I was thinking to myself, hold on, all of this land has been deforested. Obviously, it used to be bushland to become fields for these animals. And on top of that, it's very green, meaning that if there's not enough rainfall, it's going to be supplemented with some type of sprinkler like irrigation system. And then on top of that, you've got, let's say, 50 lambs, and you've got like how many thousands of meters squared that they're taking up. So just the fact that you can obviously see it, but many people don't think about it. It just feels in a way pointless if we can get our nutrients from other sources. Also, what would you say is the hardest part of being a vegetarian in Australia or just in general?
There's so many restaurants you go to, and the vegetarian option is just boring. It's always
Mm,
the same thing. It's like a vegetarian burger.
mm,
It's usually one thing on the menu. But I mean, in the
mm,
scheme of things, I don't think that's as big of an issue.
mm,
I think we're pretty lucky here because I've traveled all around,
Yeah.
and some countries, even very progressive countries like Germany,
Mm,
like you go to the countryside and it's like there's nothing vegetarian at all.
yeah.
um, that, and I guess the public opinion is still very much views vegetarianism or veganism or environmentalism in general
Mm, mm,
as kind of weak-willed, I
mm,
suppose.
mm.
You're seen as lacking character if you don't eat meat.
I remember that there was multiple advertisements for like get some pork on your fork, or have your get your lamb. You have to have enough Australian lamb on
It's
your
still a thing.
barbie. It's still a thing. And
Yeah.
a lot of men are involved in these advertisements. It's like, to be a strong, manly guy, you need to consume meat. Just because you choose to be a vegetarian, there's almost something wrong with you in a way. And I think that that mindset really needs to change because let's say that you go into the supermarket and you're buying an alternative meat product. Depending on who you are, you might feel self conscious. So, if somebody wants to become a vegetarian or they want to become a vegan, what would you suggest is the first thing that they could do?
I guess for me, thinking about how I started changing my diet was
Mm-hmm,
just take it really slowly.
mm-hmm,
I think there's a lot of pressure in
mm-hmm,
the vegan community and the vegetarian community sometimes as well. It's very dogmatic
mm-hmm.
with just
Yeah.
like you need to cut out everything at once.
Mm-hmm,
But for me, I'm an emotional eater. I like my food.
mm-hmm,
So I think doing it slowly and being kind to yourself and not being hard on yourself,
mm,
because we're brought up to want to eat meat.
yeah.
It's hard to make that change. And it's okay if you have some meat here and there as long as you feel like you're being true to yourself.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm,
start small, just add in
mm,
a few vegetarian dishes for dinner like a week. I'd start off with
mm,
that. Look into recipes, look into what you like, find what you like,
mm.
and start there.
If you get into a habit of being really conscious around your everyday actions, and before you do something you go back and think, hold on, I want to make a spaghetti bolognese. Is there like a vegan meat, for example, or is there some type of bolognese alternative that I could make that is equally as nice and but does not contain this meat? And so just slowly changing your mindset.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of fake meat as well that's not that great. I think there's some
Yeah.
that are really good, but
Mm,
you do have to go through it. And I think there's
mm,
people can get put off,
mm.
by eating
That's true.
one fake burger and being like, this is disgusting. Is this all it is? When
Yeah.
you find there's a lot of really good brands out there, but sometimes you do have to make your own. Like I find lentils in spaghetti
Mm,
bolognese instead
mm.
of mint is like the perfect alternative. It still has that real like meaty flavor, but no meat. So
How do you feel about the future of vegetarianism?
hopefully what I want to see is a move from the meat industry to embracing plant-based meat.
Mm, mm,
I'm not sure if that's going to be quick and easy job.
mm.
Quite the opposite. But
Yeah.
yeah, alternative jobs for farmers as well. But in the future, I do see that is going to happen no matter what.
Mm,
There is a huge move towards that. No matter what happens, it's just happening that way. That's the momentum.
yeah.
So I mean, I anticipate lab grown meat. I think that will
Mhm.
be
Mm,
the
mm,
future, to be honest, as well. People will be more informed about meat and non-meat alternatives.
mm.
But yeah, definitely lab-grown meat as well. That's something that's scaring a lot of people, but that'll definitely be in the future as well.
Yeah, actually, now that you mentioned that, when I was living in Singapore, um, because Singapore is obviously just a city on a very small island, and they don't have any of their own agricultural industries there. They are worried about food security, and particularly if something happened to some of their main suppliers. For example, they get a lot of food from around the Southeast Asian region, as well as importing more expensive foods from Australia and Europe, things like that. So they have been experimenting with lab-grown shrimp. So I only learned about that quite recently, and I thought that was really interesting, and hopefully it really encourages people in countries where there's a lot less awareness around vegetarianism to to jump on board through being willing to eat meat grown in a more sustainable environment.
Plant alternatives, vegetarianism, environmentalism, a lot of it is still kind of relegated to developed countries. It's, yeah, it is difficult to kind of make that shift to developing countries, I suppose. We should all be on board with this movement, yeah.
The biggest producers of carbon emissions, for example, are Western countries, are developed countries. So I feel like living in a developed country, we really have the responsibility to make a change. And then slowly other countries may start to follow in the future. If you could describe vegetarianism in one word or in one sentence, how would you describe it?
Wow.
I know that's
Gee. Affirming? Affirming, yeah. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I feel like is out of my control in life, and I feel like there's a lot of things I don't do right for myself and others. But this is something that I can be like, well, this is something I'm doing right, and that's
right.
always there.
And finally, is there anything else that you feel like you want to share? Any comments or messages or anything like that?
I did want to say, I was thinking about it earlier, an alternative to cling wrap, and it's beeswax. And it's just these sheets of beeswax, and you put it over the top of your food, and you put it in the microwave for about 10 seconds, and it melts ever so slightly around the corners, so you can press it down, and then you put it in the fridge, and then you can, it lasts for a really long time, and it has this lovely beeswax honey smell to it. And a good environmental item that I've really into. And just as a final note, I suppose there's always time to, alter our ways to feel like we're doing good. It's okay if you mess up, if you eat a bit of meat, if you kind of go back, don't be hard on yourself. You're doing the right thing in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I like that. Like, that's a great final message. And actually, beeswax is something that I've written about before on the blog. So that actually links back to
there you go.
the blog. So that's good. And yeah, I think that these days it's nice to see a lot more of those plastic alternatives becoming available. And in one of the other interviews, I'm going to talk to someone who makes her own beeswax wraps. And
there we go.
I think that would be a great link as well. So thank you so much for taking your time, Lucy, to talk to me today. And hopefully other people listening to this conversation will become a little bit more aware and interested in making a change to their diet.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.